Wednesday, Wednesday, Wednesday. My oh-so-favorite day of the week. Good lord, why the hell is, maintenance on a Wednesday? But anyway, hey, I see Choux, Senya, and a Belian, and I just so happened to go first before any of the other units. So, surprise, surprise, guys, that is actually a PvE Choux. And I had to ask to see how much HP she actually had. Turns out she only had 20k. And that Senya only has around 14. So, either way you look at it, yeah, this is actually looking kinda dicey in terms of, an actual effective defense, because the team that we're going up against isn't fast enough to really initiate, because, straight up, almost never does my Arunka go first. That's usually not something that I want to have happen, which, I've always debated, what if maybe I should actually, slow her down a little bit, but, hey, man, trying to get, just the right stats for your units usually just doesn't really work out. So, hey, we're ultimately gear gapping in this first fight. The Choux just straight up did not have the survivability, did not have the bulk, and she was gone in 2 turns. Yeah, there was one dual attack that happened, but also the follow-up attack that happened with Arunka was just so much damage that, yeah, she was easily, lower than half health on the very first hit, and I didn't even have attack buff. That's another pretty big factor as well. So the only unit that's even on this dude's team that even has, some form of respectable bulk is Belian, but I went into this even if it was an injury Belian, and surprise, surprise, it is an injury Belian, but with Roana on my team, and if she happens to proc Elbrus's Tooth or this attack right there, her S1 follow-up, I'm just going to be moving up the CR bar so frequently that I just don't have anything to really worry about. So, this is where, Conqueror Lilias is a little bit of a better defensive unit to have on a Senya Choux team, because she's only going to go into Shadow Knight Pyllis, all that kind of stuff. But, here, yeah, I think a lot of this was just straight up gear gapping. So, yeah, we were already done with the first match. Now, for match 2, that is Unbound Knight Arowell, Mercedes, and Rimuru. So, I'm going to essentially do the same thing that I usually do whenever I'm countering, a Conqueror Lilias, which is I use Savior Adin, and I use Zahhak with the 2 buffs that Sinji is going to give my team. This will proc the Rimuru goes into Zahhak, steals the first 2 buffs, which is attack and speed, and then he's going to go into Krau. That's going to do tons of damage, and then, hey, now I'm low enough to go ahead and start killing. So even if I was not able to kill the Mercedes, which I wasn't, the Unbound Knight Arowell was giving just enough of escort defense and escort damage sharing that, yeah, I wasn't able to kill the Mercedes. But with, Krau S3 right there as well, yeah, you straight up have no chance. Also, to those of you who are probably pretty astute that can notice something, happen to notice anything a little different right there? Yeah, might have been a visual glitch or something, but yeah, I have immortality on Sinji, and the purple flame, flame effect whenever you kill is not actually happening right now. Don't know if that's anything in particular, but yeah, that was just something that I happened to notice. And with that said, that's the first round. Who's ready for more of the meta fun stuff? And by meta fun stuff, I mean generally not fun at all, because it's excruciatingly easy. So it's Conqueror, Lilias, Senya, and Choux. And yeah, it probably is getting a little bit boring to see the same kind of team that I use into this, but guys, the reason I use this team is it is astonishingly consistent. Even whenever really bad shit like this happens, because normally Choux's not really going to be critting your Arunka because there's a 50% accuracy check assigned to it because of element disadvantage. But even when that happens, Roana being there just straight up makes it so that you heal so much of the damage that you take. And with Shadow Knight Pyllis there, I know you guys see me use Rocket Punch and all this other stuff, but do you happen to remember what, Shadow Knight Pyllis's original kit is? The big thing that we used her for? She's the one who makes all the follow-up counterattacks and just, additional attacks do, significantly less damage. If I recall correctly, I believe that it reduces the damage that you take from any of those additional attacks by 30%. That in and of itself is huge. And in all honesty, if we were to get a spec change for somebody like Hazel, who could do something along those same veins in terms of defensive capability, you could absolutely use Hazel instead of Shadow Knight Pyllis, just for the sake of being able to survive this same kind of stuff. Because, like, the biggest reason why I don't use, like, say, Hazel into stuff like this, even though it's tailor-made to perfectly do it, is because you still have to go through Choux. So, yeah, Hazel can counter Senya extremely effectively because of how her kit works, which, if you don't recall what Hazel does, she's a 3-star Shadow Knight who, whenever she receives a counter attack, like you proc a counter attack and they hit you, then it stacks, I believe, up to 3, 4, or 5 times. It's something along those lines. But it ultimately, whenever it stacks enough times, you will just straight up do like flat 5,000 damage. And that's off of every attack that you deal. And whenever you trigger a counterattack, she just super jumps up on the CR bar. It's extremely awesome. I have a couple of videos wherever I utilize it. But the biggest reason why I don't use Hazel is because she does have, like, I think, damage mitigation on a counterattack, but she does not have damage mitigation on, like, follow-up attacks or extra attacks or additional attacks. Now, you're like, well, I mean, what kind of a big difference does that really make? Well, I'll tell you. The big difference that it makes is Choux herself. Because if Choux procs a S1 into an S2, well, guess what? That's not a counterattack. Even whenever the S1 is a counterattack, the S2, that is the follow-up attack, is not a counterattack. And Hazel will take full damage from that, and you will be miserable anytime you take those hits, because you're taking full damage, and that's Death Pen as well. So, welcome to the feature presentation, boys and girls. So, this is a pretty typical team that I like to run into Ran. And this is, I believe, Ran, Mercedes, and Savior Adin. And keep a good look at how many times I missed that Savior Adin. I'll tell you how many it actually is at the end. But yeah, the ultimate goal is okay. So Unbound Arowell is taking a astonishing amount of damage so far because Ed has, like, he had Death Break. The AoE attacks are just, oh god, I'm just taking way too much damage. I'm in so much pain. Like, Arowell's already dead. So, I take this opportunity to bring her back with Destina, and we're able to kind of still make things work, because we've already killed Mercedes once, so we just have to kill her one more time. And then we don't have to worry about Mercedes anymore, and we should be able to just keep everything together, and then we'll be able to just power through this. Because, I mean, what are the odds that I'm going to miss, like, every single attack on Savior Adin? What are the odds of that? There's no way I'm going to miss that damn much. But you know what? We're not there yet. So, first we got to get rid of Ran, because he still does AoE damage, and that 1S3 that he's going to do is still going to do a lot of damage to Savior Adin. Then it's also going to put Death Break on Ed if both debuffs hit, and then if you just hit Ed again, Adin very well might get herself killed. Fortunately, Guardian Ice Crystals is actually doing a little bit of that mitigation in terms of, like, healing. It's just not enough. Because this is the one thing that I genuinely kind of don't like about Destina, is anytime I use Roana, I feel like I could use Destina as well, but good lord, man, when I use Destina, like, I feel like my anxiety is shooting through the roof, because I genuinely do not feel safe. By the way, keep a look at all these misses. So, I'm not too worried yet, because I'm like, oh, I'm going to hit her. As soon as I hit her, like, even once, everything's going to be fine. But it was, like, right around here that I'm starting to get, like, a little bit annoyed, because even the S2s are missing. And all I'm doing is I'm just giving her attack buff. And they just continue to miss, because she's also taking my souls away. Every time that I miss her and then she does an S2, I lose 5 souls. Wonderful. I love this character. It's so good. So, The ultimate, like, good thing to really keep in mind, at least, something that I wasn't even thinking about at the time, but, like, looking at this footage back, Destina shouldn't be in danger of really dying to this, because she has a lot of defense, she has a lot of HP, and ultimately, you'd probably just be using, like, S2 into yourself to turn cycle and to also give yourself healing, stuff like that. And you should be able to get your S3 back. Now, fortunately, I was able to get a full revive up, I was able to get Unbound Knight Arowell back, and we were able to get through it. So, to those of you who were counting, yeah, that was 10 misses. Out of probably 11 hits. Fun, huh? But either way, now we're up on to the last matches of the fights. We have Apocalypse Ravi, Mercedes, and Lua. So, we're on to Lua again, where pretty much the biggest mistake that you really can have if you have Lua on defense is if you have Edward and there's no Choux that you're fighting, you can really just kind of like throw Edward onto the team and you will absolutely destroy it. Now, one thing I did also make a small mistake on is looking back at this footage, I honest to God do not know why I even brought Destina. Like, there's no reason to run a double green at this point. Like, if I wanted to be smart about this, I could have easily, instead of bringing Destina, I could have just brought Doris. And I think that's, right around here is where I'm starting to realize this mistake that I made. It's like, oh shit. So Alencia is actually taking those, like, Apocalypse Ravi hits. But fortunately, the good thing is I don't think this Apocalypse Ravi is on counter. In fact, I don't really see a lot of counter ones anymore. But she already has a fair bit of injury, so her damage is utterly neutered. And as soon as, like, I get even, like, a few hits into it, if Alencia possibly goes down or takes absurd, like, injury damage as well, which I highly doubt's going to happen, because Alencia is a straight-up god when it comes to injury damage. The injury damage that she deals is astronomical, especially if you have her on injury set, because normally her S1 does not deal injury damage. The injury damage is on the S2 follow-up, which is what you get whenever you have Mind's Eye. So you'll always have Mind's Eye unless you have Unbuffable on, which that's the only thing that can really, like, stop this this S2 attack right there. And straight up, Ravi is already almost at complete total injury, which means her damage is just dead. And also, her HP pool is lower, because that's what injury does. So whenever I get the opportunity, I can just straight up kill her now with Edward. Which, thankfully, even though that Lua was being a super bitch, and she did her S2 on Ed, stripped him, but then did not sleep him, I still had Beguile on, and I was able to keep it on there long enough for her to hit me, and then that also activated Equivalent Exchange. Man, Ed's fair, ain't he? So, on this final match, because we still had Unbound Knight Arowell from the last match where we used her, where we were able to get her revived, we can still use her. So, ultimately, I see Zio and I see Savior Adin, and also that Winter has a lot of effectiveness. If she was able to hit my Roana, she easily has over 150. So that's one thing to keep in mind, but I'm not too worried, because I fought Winters in the past with Roana, where I didn't have any effect resist. So ultimately, if you have Roana, you can utterly farm Winter teams, because Winter is just going to go into your Roana and do almost nothing to you. Like, seriously, like, Winter has no DPS, period. The biggest thing that she's there for is she's there to check you if you have non-attack skills. So, fortunately for us, we have Unbound Knight Arowell, there's no non-attack skills. There's Shadow Knight Pyllis, there's also no non-attack skills. And with Roana, all you have to do is just not use your S3. And if you wanted to, if you had, like, lower stats and you were worried about this, you could always check the turn order and see when her S3 is about to refresh. So if her S3 ever is, like, on one turn left remaining on cooldown, or if it's, like, actually fully cooled down, then if you desperately needed it, you could use Roana's S3, give yourself revive buff, and you also heal the whole team, give yourself barrier, stuff like that. And then it procs Winter. Then Winter will go into your Roana or whoever your other green unit is, if you happen to be running any other unit. And whenever you do that, If she's already on like 3 uses of her S3 and she's doing 15,000 damage per one, you're still fine, because you will revive the next turn if she does too much damage and she kills you, and you're good to go. Or straight up, you can do what I did here, and I just straight up never used the S3 because I'm rocking Celestine on her S1. So I'm able to heal without using any non-attack skills. And that's generally all there is to this fight. So the other things to keep in mind real quick, so yeah, there was Savior Adin. I have Rocket Punch. I do lots of damage to Savior Adin. Also, straight up, Shadow Knight Pyllis also does a fair amount of damage to Savior Adin in general with her S3 because it's more than likely going to hit. And Unbound Knight Arowell's just there to tank the extra damage from both Zio and from the Savior Adin. And with that said, that's pretty much it. So, yeah, that was lots of fun. So, hey guys, I hope you enjoyed your Wednesday. I still really despise that we have, like, maintenance on Wednesdays. Mainly, I mean, I guess that's just for me, because, like, hey, I have really busy Wednesdays, and my Wednesdays are usually just, like, super packed and stressful, takes a lot of time. So, with that being said, I guess I'll go ahead and I'll talk about next week. Due to other events that may or may not come up, and I don't know if I can talk about it or not, but I don't know if there will be commentary on Wednesday or not. There is definitely not going to be a Guild War next Friday. Not this Friday, but not next Friday. I will try my best and see if I can get any of that information saved and all that other jazz, and we'll see how everything's good to go. But for next week on Wednesday, I'm honest to God not sure if I'll be able to get a commentary out. It really just kind of depends on my schedule and how easy, fun, or whatever the Guild War is. But, hey, I hope you were able to enjoy this Guild War. I kind of did. It was kind of interesting. And if you liked my content, please go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to see more of my content, go ahead and hit subscribe. Hope to see y'all again sometime soon.